Good morning guys from my hotel room in Helsinki, Finland, where I'm just getting ready to head up to the classic Helsinki Central Railway Station, where I will then be taking a train north up to Rovaniemi, a journey of 8 hours plus I believe, and I am so looking forward to this because it is going to be the furthest north I have ever been on the planet. So, yeah, as you can imagine, really excited for this one. I'm going to be showing you guys all the scenery en route and, of course, the train itself. So why don't you come with me? We'll head out there now and I'll see you on the train. Opened in 1862, the current building dates from 1919, and we are entering through these fantastic sturdy wooden doors here. Interestingly, Helsinki Central Station is the most visited building in the whole of Finland, although only half of the 200,000 or so people that pass through it each day are travelling by train, which makes you wonder what the other half are doing, I suppose. Anyway, the distinctive terminus really is a beautiful building, and quite a bit of work going on externally whilst we were there, but internally, despite the many retail outlets, the station still retains a lot of its original charm. A large departure board here in the main concourse with long distance trains on the left, commuter services on the right. I was catching the 0824 service to Rovaniemi, leaving from platform 6 in about half an hour's time. Now, there are no gate lines here, it's just through another set of doors onto the platforms. In fact, travelling through Scandinavia and the Baltic states on this trip, I didn't come across any ticket barriers at all. Why is that? Is it a cultural thing, or are people more trusting in this part of the world? Are gate lines better from a security point of view? Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. A time for a quick wander up the platform, and it wasn't long before our train was arriving, pulling in about 15 minutes prior to departure. A large train this, insomuch as it was of the double-decker variety. Now it's worth noting at this point that if you're travelling first class, don't start looking for a yellow band above the windows. The number 1, or even the words first class, they don't exist on VR Finnish trains. A first class is simply known as Ekstra. EKSTRA, and that is the word displayed externally that you need to look out for. Otherwise, like me, you just end up having to ask the conductor on board, which is fine, but at the end of the day, if I'd have researched it properly prior to the trip, I would have known. Various other coaches in this consist, which would be headed by one of VR's Vectrons. We'll be having an extensive look at the different carriages during our 8-hour journey north, and in the meantime it was time to board. There were 2 extra class carriages on this train, and I chose the nearest one, heading upstairs to be greeted by the extra welcome in Finnish, and then into the 2-1 seating, which was mainly airline style, though there was some table seating further down the carriage. I chose a seat on the right hand side facing forward and settled in for the journey. First impressions, very smart interior, a bit similar I thought to the Swedish X2000 in terms of seats anyway. We left on time, and if you look very closely you can see the baseball capped figure of Johnny Hoover on the platform, who, although he wasn't taking a train this morning, very kindly filmed my departure before heading off on his own adventure south. And I think he was glad to get rid of me at this point, to be honest.
Finally packed him off on a bloody trip to Rovaniemi or something. Bye, mate.
Yeah, bye. And now, Helsinki, it looked a really nice city. It was the second time I've been here now, but on both occasions, I've really just been passing through. And I'll have some more thoughts about that a little bit later on in the journey. But after just 5 minutes, we were approaching our first stop at Pasila Burley, where lots more people boarded the train. I was travelling on an Interrail first class ticket. Seat reservations were not compulsory, so I hadn't purchased one. That was my first mistake really, because you may have noticed there's no individual display above the seat to indicate whether it's reserved. Therefore, I had no idea whether mine was or not. Well, at our next stop, Tikorila, more people got on, and although I'd survived once more, 10 minutes after leaving the station, someone eventually showed up, and I had to move. Oh well, fortunately I was able to relocate up the carriage a bit, and now it was an hour or so to our next stop at Tampere. This gave me enough time to have a proper look at the seat. So a substantial flip down table here that came up to my waist, and if you're larger than me that could be an issue. Underneath we have a pouch for your belongings if needed and a footrest under that. Legroom was excellent as you would expect. To the side there is a conventional European style plug socket and a plastic bag for your rubbish. There is also a stylish lamp on the window ledge which looked nice, although it was probably unnecessary to be honest. And the seat itself has winged headrests and the Ekstra name on the headrest itself. Nicely padded. I did like the colour scheme chosen actually, simple but again stylish. Armrests on both sides and a recline lever too. Above your head is a solitary reading light and no blinds at the windows. After about 30 minutes the conductor came down checking tickets. And this was really useful actually because he told me that when we got to Tampere I'd have to move again because this carriage, the Ekstra Kalm carriage as it was known, was completely sold out. So I then asked him if there were any other available seats from Tampere all the way up to Rovaniemi, and looking at his seat map he was able to find one in the other Ekstra carriage, Ekstra Relaxed, which was above the restaurant car. Well, I didn't have to pay for this seat, but he did print me off a receipt with the details, so at least I had surety at this point, and could, as the name suggested, relax for the remainder of the journey. Overall though, I think it was quite naive of me to think I could just jump on the train in first class and have a nice quiet trip up north in a half-full carriage. It just wasn't the case. But you live and learn, don't you? And yeah, sharing my experience here can hopefully help others looking at this and or similar trips. I wouldn't risk it again. Reservations in the Ekstra carriages are priced from just €5.90 in advance, and you can choose your seat. It's simply worth it for the peace of mind. Anyway, here we were coming into Tampere, which was my cue to move from Ekstra Kalm to Ekstra Relaxed. And note the self-serve kitchen area here on the left hand side, and also the soundproof booth just in front. I wish all trains had these, and mind you, in some countries would anyone bother using them? And interestingly, the Ekstra carriages only have normal access egress at one end, and this stops people walking through and, yeah, like the booth you've just seen, minimises passenger disturbance. And as the name suggests, it's all about calm, isn't it? And I got the impression that it's just not socially acceptable in Finland to be that person with their phone on speaker, or listening to music, or watching films out loud. So here we were in carriage 3, Ekstra Relaxed, which seemed an older carriage in appearance and was certainly different with the swivel seating on the left here. It was again busy, but I found my seat, which was a table seat facing backwards. Not ideal for filming to be honest, but yeah, at least I had a seat. The carriage was certainly not as plush as the other one. It didn't have carpeted floor for example, and there was also no tea or coffee, so I had to keep going back to the other carriage for that. And I tried out the Wi-Fi, which connected okay and worked a bit, and then it didn't work. And it played YouTube videos some of the time, then it didn't, and so on and so on. Yeah, best described as inconsistent, I would say. And maybe it depended on how many people were on it at any one time, and there were certainly plenty of laptop users in this area. The scenery at this point, well, lots of trees, though it did start to get more interesting in and around some of the railway stations, and some of the engine sheds and the turntables, for example.
Ja Seinäjoelta jatketaan aikataulun mukaisesti 11.09. And this train continuing from Seinäjoki 11:09.
Right guys, so we are coming up pretty much coming up to 3 hours into the journey, and yeah, the time's going really quick actually. I'm in one of these soundproof booths that are provided at both ends of at least the Ekstra coaches. I'm not sure about the standard class. The Ekstra is the first class, of which there are 2 on this particular train, and they're really a good idea actually, aren't they? Because I can talk to you now, no problem at all, and not disturb anybody else in the coach. So yeah, the seats, a bit of a faff really, wasn't it? Don't do what I did, which was to just rock up on the train and expect to sit wherever you want without reserving a seat. It's just not worth the hassle, because I've had to move like twice now. I had to move once back in the other coach and then into this other coach now, which, although I checked with the guard and the seat's okay, it's just a faff. Pay the money and reserve the seat, and then of course you can get whichever seat you want and sitting on whichever side. I'm going to have a little bit more of an explore around the train and show you what I can find, and yeah, maybe also go and grab something to eat. I'm looking forward to that. I'm getting a little bit hungry now, so yeah, I'll catch you in a bit. So whilst the scenery was not much to write home about, at least the train, for me anyway, was quite interesting. The time to check out the toilet upstairs in Extra relaxed, which was compact but everything worked and was available. There were accessible toilets downstairs too, located near to the wheelchair spaces, which is obviously well thought out. The restaurant car, well, I think I picked the wrong moment to go down there. It was absolutely rammed, which I guess is not that much of a surprise really. It is a popular place. The menu displayed above the counter here is quite extensive. I ordered just a frankfurter and some wedges for €7.80, which I then discovered was a children's portion. It was okay. It filled the gap, I suppose. Yeah, and like I said, all the seats were taken, so I ate it standing up in this raised area just here. But then as soon as we got to our next stop, Harmer, the restaurant car emptied out, and I was able to finish my food sitting down. Yeah, I guess if it is really busy, then there is always the option to take the food and drink back to your seat. Time for a wander, and a little further along the train I came to the open standard class carriage. 2 seating configuration as you would expect. It was busy, but not extremely busy, and the seats themselves looked comfortable enough, especially with the movable headrests, which you don't often see in standard class. And after that, but still in standard class, I came to some compartment seating, 2 seats per compartment on the one side and 4 seats per compartment on the other. Well, I found an empty 4-seater and I thought I'd give it a go. Firstly, it was much cooler inside than the extra carriage upstairs, and secondly, it was so quiet and private. Now, I did think that this was a better option than extra, first class if you like, but it is going to cost you more money. Your best bet is the 2-person compartment, and the supplement for that is around €38 from what I could see. Now, these 4-seater compartments here, the supplement for those is around about €98, so if you're travelling alone and it's available, I think possibly the 2-person one is worth it, considering the length of the trip. But then that kind of negates the whole point of having a first-class Interrail ticket in the first place. So, I sat there thinking about this and then questioning the whole reasoning behind not just the Interrail ticket I had, but how I was travelling on this trip anyway. We crossed the Sea Kayaki River at Rovaniemi, which is probably the most scenic point of the trip so far actually, and shortly after that we arrived at the lovely looking station in Oulu. After that we crossed the bridge that separates the Merikoski and Oulujoki waters, and I returned to the extra seating above the restaurant to enjoy the views. But yeah, the way I was doing this whole trip was really playing on my mind a bit. I was certainly questioning whether it was actually affecting the experience. Right guys, so we have got about 2 hours to run, thereabouts. Just leaving Oulu now, and yeah, it's definitely quietened down a little bit on the train. A lot of people got off Oulu. It feels much calmer. As you've seen, it's been quite a busy trip so far, and a bit of a thought-provoking one as well for me personally. Just thinking about how I do this in the future, and my experience of the Interrail product, and whether it's right for me or not, or maybe something else is more suitable. I'll explain a little bit more as we go along, but yeah, it's definitely made me think about all that, and ultimately, yeah, travel is all about the right kind of thing for you personally, isn't it? Maybe more so even than the expense. So yeah, lots of things to think about, I think. But what I'm going to do in the next couple of hours, next stop is Kemi, and then we've got another couple of stops just looking on the board there before Rovaniemi. So I'm going to try and get some more food, because when I went down about a quarter of an hour ago, the lady said, well, you can have some food, but you're going to have to wait because we're not doing anything now until we leave Oulu. So, which is fine. I mean, they're probably on their break or something. So yeah, we'll head down there and see what we get. The restaurant car was still busy, but there is some additional seating here, and I ordered the salmon soup with bread at €13.60. It was really hot actually, but yeah, nice enough, and again it kept me going. It was a bit more authentic than the earlier Frankfurter, to be honest, and I walked it off with another wander right up to the locomotive this time, which I always like to see. And I also came across a dedicated area for bikes and skis, and a family area which I was able to film as there was no one inside. I think there was an additional kids area upstairs, but I didn't want to go up there with my camera for obvious reasons. So I returned once more to my seat as we passed a few trees, and then some more trees, and then some more trees after that, and returned to the subject of travel, of course. And I thought it was worth going into a little bit more detail about how I'd ended up in Finland in the first place. You see, I'd already been to Copenhagen, Stockholm, and of course Helsinki in a matter of just 3 days, and I couldn't help thinking it was all a bit of a rush. And these places deserved more time to really appreciate what they have to offer, but because I was on a 10 days in 2 months Interrail ticket, I really felt the urge to use it as much as possible and travel more, but in a shorter space of time. But I hadn't seen any of these places properly, and I only had one night in Rovaniemi before flying down to Riga. Now, obviously, this is all down to me and how I plan to do it, and I'm not saying it's the wrong product in itself. I'm just saying that in future, I don't think it's the right option for me, and maybe I should have done things differently. I spent a lot of time on this train thinking about what I want to get out of travel, how I want to do it, and what I want to experience. And I've come to the conclusion that, I'd rather base myself in one country or even one city for a longer period of time. So, although I probably won't be purchasing this particular Interrail ticket in the future, I may well consider something like a one country pass and just base myself in one place, like Helsinki for example, or just buy a rail ticket when I want to go on the train, because you know me, I enjoy ferries and buses just as much as rail travel. But what do you think? I'm sure some of you have been interrailing before, and I'd love to know what your experiences were like. Do you prefer travelling around all the time, from point to point so to speak? Or would you rather stay longer, say 3 or 4 nights somewhere, and do your travelling from a central base? There's no right or wrong answer here, I don't think, just different options for different people. And it's only through travelling that you really get to find out what suits you best. Like I said, let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. I'll be really interested to read your thoughts and hear of your experiences. On the approach to Rovaniemi now, and we passed another train laden with logs in the sidings here. And one thing's for sure, there is a lot of wood in this part of the world. Because I was travelling on an Interrail ticket, the cost of this specific trip cannot really be determined. However, a quick look on the VR website will tell you that a standard single ticket, adult, is around €50, and then you have all kinds of add-ons and upgrades that you may wish to purchase on top. It was a pretty dull and uninspiring arrival into Rovaniemi, to be honest, but I'm not quite sure what I was expecting. It wasn't like Santa Claus and his reindeer were on the platform ready to greet me or anything, was it? Besides, it wasn't really the time of year. Overall, I would say, it probably wasn't my greatest trip ever, but it was certainly a thought-provoking one, and so quite an important experience in that respect. We passed the sleeper train on the platform here, and that of course is another option, isn't it? I'll talk about that in a minute. Arriving on time, I disembarked the train and made my way across the tracks with everybody else to a car park where I managed to cut my head on a metal sign, and after stopping the bleeding, spent the next hour or so walking to a key box and then walking most of the way back to my apartment, where I just took a minute or two to summarise the journey. Right then guys, I am at my apartment in Rovaniemi, Finland, having travelled up here on the 8+ hour train from Helsinki. What did you think of the journey? Let me know in the comments below. Well, it didn't get off to the greatest of starts, did it, with the seat reservation issues? And in hindsight, I was a little bit naive, I think, thinking that I could just jump on the train in first class. It wouldn't be that busy. I'd sit where I want and not have to pay the reservation fee. Well, my recommendation from this is to pay the reservation fee and then save yourself the hassle. Talking about sitting where you want, and it didn't really make much difference as it happened, because there wasn't really much to see. For me, it was a little bit boring. That might sound a little bit controversial. You're thinking, this big trip up to the Arctic Circle in Finland, it's going to be amazing. I thought it was going to be, but it's trees, more trees, the occasional river and lake, but pretty much trees all the way. In fact, the train and the configuration of the train and the various bits and pieces on that was more interesting in my opinion. than the actual journey itself. And yeah, some of the other areas, especially the standard class, and made me question why I travelled in first class anyway. And maybe that's the thing. I'm looking at the Interrail ticket that I'm on, which is a 10-day first class ticket, 10 days in 2 months. And is that right for me? Well, maybe it's not. I liked Helsinki. It looked like a really interesting city, but I was kind of dashing between cities. Maybe I want to base myself in one city or one country for 3 or 4 days, in which case one country pass would be better, or maybe not bother with the Interrail at all, and maybe just buy a ticket from one place to the other, and yeah, as I go along, maybe that's the cheaper option. But again, let me know, have you been on this train? Have you done it on an Interrail? Would you take the sleeper? And that's the other option, isn't it? And based on the scenery, well, I wanted to see the countryside, but I haven't seen it. I think maybe the sleeper is the better option. You're not missing much by travelling up at night, in my opinion. But yeah, like I said, all these questions and all these experiences that I've had today, it's been interesting, but I would really love to know what you guys thought of the trip and your experiences of the trip if you have been on it. I'd like to thank you for watching anyway. If you're interested in these kind of videos, there are plenty more around the screen now. I'll catch you on another adventure soon, and as always guys, cheers for now.